Hey everybody, it's Josh Muller, and I'm super excited to be connecting with you today for our Sales and Service Bootcamp virtual summit. And I just want to start by saying welcome. I'm so glad you're here, and I just want to take a moment to acknowledge and honor you for the investment that you're making in yourself, both in terms of your dollars and your time, which are your two most valuable resources. And it says a lot about who you are, just the fact that you're here right now to learn from the best of the best in the business and invest in your own personal and professional development. And thank you to Scott Gorell for that great welcome. And Scott already told you about all the great things we have going on. We've got a ton of great information. I've actually been working with the speakers for the past couple months now to make sure that they're fully prepared for the messages that they give to us this evening. And I'm just very excited to deliver this. I'm going to be your MC for the day, so I'll be introducing all of our speakers and letting you know about our breaks and stuff like that, so you know what's going on throughout the day. Just a couple quick tips before I introduce our first speaker of the evening. I just want to remind you that there's a couple things that you want to do today. Number one, if you need a bathroom break or anything like that, no problem. We can't control when people's bladders go into effect or demand what they need from them. And so we do have a couple scheduled breaks throughout the day for 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there throughout the evening here. And so I just want to remind you that if you need a break, no problem. Because we're live streaming on YouTube right now, what's awesome is you can actually push the pause button on the live stream and it will pause it just like you can with your TV and DVR with your cable and stuff like that. And then you can go do what you need to do, grab a snack, dinner, go to the bathroom, do whatever. And then you can just come back and hit play on the live stream again. And it will pick up right where you left off. And then you can continue to just watch it till the end. It works just the same as it does with your cable and DVR and all that stuff at home. So also another quick thing I want to let you know, if you want to really get the most out of this event, I want to share with you like my tips to how to do that. And then I'm going to introduce our first speaker and we'll just get rocking and rolling through this agenda today. So number one thing I have for you is just make sure you're taking really great notes today. But also, in addition to taking great notes, make sure you're also keeping on the side an actions list. This has been something that's really helped me a lot because I've gone to a lot of seminars and I've had it happen time and time again where I get to the end, I'm all fired up, I got all this great stuff I learned, and then my brain's like melting and I feel so overwhelmed, I don't know where to start. And so, one of the things that I started doing a number of years ago that's been super powerful for me and really helped me maximize the value I get from an event like this is to keep my actions list. Because the reality is I may hear 10 or 15 messages at a single event, and maybe only a handful of those messages or a handful of the nuggets that I get from those messages actually are applicable for me right now, depending on where I'm at in my business or my life. And the same is true for you. So you're going to hear maybe 100 awesome things today, but really the question is, what are the most important things that you learned today that by implementing right away are going to make the biggest difference in your results? So I always recommend that when you hear something that you're like, ooh, I got to do that, or ooh, that is something I need to go back and revisit, or holy crap, that was amazing. Star that, circle that, highlight it, tag it with a post-it, do whatever you got to do in your notebook, but then also keep a separate list that is your actions list, and write that thing down on your actions list. Like, I got to do this, or I need to follow up on that, or I need to get this in my calendar, or whatever it is. And at the end of the event, what I always recommend you do tonight is at the very end, when we're all done, before you go to bed, or first thing tomorrow morning, while everything's still fresh in your brain, go over that actions list and reorder it and prioritize it in terms of what's going to make the biggest difference for you right now. And then that becomes the first thing that you plug in your calendar and you get to work on right away. Do this, and I promise you, not only will you get the knowledge that you need to take your business to the next level, but you'll also give yourself the actions list that you need to take that knowledge and turn it into power. And there's that old saying out there that knowledge is power, but I personally believe knowledge only becomes power when it's combined with action. So turn your knowledge into power today by keeping that actions list and then building that actions list into your calendar after you prioritize it once this event is over tonight. So, all right, let's go ahead and introduce our first speaker. I have the pleasure of introducing you to Mr. Tyler Langmeier. If you don't know Tyler Langmeier, he's going to be talking with us today about virtual demos. And he started back in 2016, so a couple years ago. He lives in Connecticut, New Britain, Connecticut, and he's over $550,000 in career sales. And actually, he's only been selling around, that's really 2 years of selling around full-time school. So that's pretty amazing. Most people never accomplish that in their first couple of years. To get to over $500,000 in sales is pretty awesome. He's also won an All-American Scholarship, all 3 campaigns in 1 year. Not many people have done that. And he's the current record holder for annual sales as a full-time student. Last year in 2018, he did over $277,000 in just 1 year while selling full-time around school. That's pretty amazing. He also had a 50K push week for SC2. And we've asked him to come share the goods on virtual demos because Tyler did almost $50,000 in sales last year alone just on virtual demos. That means that almost 20% of his sales for the entire year came just on virtual demos. Also, his average order on virtuals is almost $800, and he's sold multiple $1,000 plus packages on virtual demos, and his biggest order on virtual demos has been over $5,000. So this guy is definitely the guy you want to listen to if you want to know what it takes to really perform at the highest level and get the best results from your virtual demos. So Tyler, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, buddy.
All right, so my topic for today will be virtual demos. Before I get started, I just want to thank everyone for being here. I know a lot of people that will be watching this will be running branches and whatnot for the summer, so I just want to appreciate you guys for taking the time out to do a little bit of learning. Hopefully this helps you sell a little bit more when you're coming back into the swing of things for SC2 and then into the fall. So just to give you a little backstory, I guess, on who I am and why I'm talking about the virtuals. My name's Tyler Langmeier. I've been with the company since 2016. When I first started, I was actually taught the video demo instead of the traditional demo, so it was actually like similar to the virtual was what I learned like in training. So it's something that I feel pretty confident with. When I first started, I was not a very good sales rep. I actually hung up on my first phone call. So I really wasn't too good at this. Fast forward 3 years later, I'm at $550,000 in career sales, and a large portion of that has come from virtuals. I believe last year I did around 50K in virtuals, which is nice because obviously you just do it right from your house. So just to give you guys like my hopes for the message and what you'll take out of this, I want you to understand that virtuals are becoming a big part of most people's business. And what's nice with virtuals is you can target different demographics in different areas, not even like around you. So for example, I'm from Connecticut. I do a lot of virtuals with people out in the West Coast as well as people in Florida and a bunch of other states in between, and it's just a nice layer to your business that doesn't really have a lot of expenses attached to it, so it's very profitable. As far as like what you guys that are listening, what you can do to help yourself get the most from this message, I'm going to be covering what I do for my virtual, so the structure of it, some key little lines and phrases that I use in order to make customers feel comfortable pulling the trigger, having not, touched the product or got to like see it and use it all. So just some basic things with that. And then I'll also go over closing and referrals and what I do for that process as well. So if I were you guys and I was on the other end of this listening, I would look for 2 to 3 key things that you can implement right away. And then obviously just, revisit this message when you're ready to implement more. But I would discourage you from implementing everything at once just because it's challenging and just not the best way to do it. Cool. So for my virtual, just some like basic things that, I believe everyone should know. My mindset when I'm going into a virtual is it's the same as an in-home regular demo, same confidence, same expectancy, same everything. A really interesting thought that I've used to like rationalize this is a lot of people buy things on Amazon all the time. Sometimes it's like expensive things like $400 or $500, like $1,000 things off Amazon, which they don't ever get to use and or touch at all before buying it. So I just think in today's culture, it's way more common for people to buy things online and not really ever get that like, feeling like you would in a store. So I just think it's more common. Same thing with the virtual. It's the same thing as them shopping on Amazon. You're just helping them. Now, one thing I do slightly different is I personally use FaceTime to show my clients the Blue Book, like the catalog. So I don't actually use the Prezi or the PowerPoint or whatever else is out there. All those avenues you can take for the virtual are fine, and they'll all yield similar results, assuming you're doing the right things. So I'm just telling you guys this because that's what I use and that's what works for me. You can use whatever avenue, whatever method of the virtual that you're comfortable with, and then just adopt some of the mindset things and like key phrases that I'm going to teach. So however you do it, it doesn't matter. I just personally prefer FaceTime. And then I personally do prefer it just because I feel like when someone can see your face and they can, see your expressions, your emotion that's attached to certain things you're saying, I just believe that it comes off a little bit more powerful. And then I also think it's a lot easier for people to give you recommendations when they know who you are, they see your face. So that's just my logic behind it. Again, it doesn't matter what way you choose to do your virtual. Confidence and expectancy are really like the two key things. So since you obviously can't cut anything in your virtual, that's probably the biggest question I get from most people is, well, how do you build value without cutting anything? This is another reason I prefer FaceTime is because I cut the penny with the shears, and I attach a lot of emotion, a lot of excitement to that. I want them to get excited about it and be like, no way, and whatnot. So that's my only cutting for the entire virtual is when we cut the penny. And again, I just attach a lot of emotion, a lot of excitement, try and get them excited about it. And that's the only cutting that happens during the demo. The 5-pay option and the 15-day money-back guarantee should be prefaced heavily. I don't mean essentially telling your customers, like, it's fine, buy it, and then return it if you don't want it. That's not what I mean. I mean it more so coming from the standpoint of, hey, Miss Jones, you're going to try everything out for 15 days. If you don't like anything or you don't like anything about it, I will just refund your, blank deposit. But I've been doing this for 4 years, and I'm pretty confident that you'll love everything just like your referral did, just like Susan did. So the point of that is to make them feel confident in buying now over FaceTime, but not meant to make them feel uneasy about purchasing. So it's said very casually, and it's just a nice little security blanket for them, if you will. I really don't relay that a ton of times because, again, I don't want it to seem like everyone tries it and then returns it. That's not what I'm going for. It's just more so to make them feel confident about getting it today, knowing that they can use it in home for 15 days. Not a lot of kitchen companies do that. I think we're one of the only ones, so I just like to make them aware of that. Now, as far as my structure and what I'm doing, when I'm FaceTiming my customers, I show them the Blue Book, obviously, and then I open up with just basic rapport questions, typically hey, so how do you know your friend Susan that referred me to you, or just kind of see the relationship with their referral, so I can kind of use that to build better rapport. And that's pretty organic. There's no real structure questions that I have for that. It's just it's organic, building rapport as you would with any other person. After I build rapport, I'll transition into sharing goals. So I always share goals every single time. And I always use the line of, because I'm working so hard to hit blank goal. If you're in school, the All-American Scholarship. If you're not, maybe something you're working on to hit in the company, like the Realtor program or Fair and Show or whatever. Whatever you want to make your goal, just buy into it. So I'll use that line of, because I'm working so hard to hit blank goal. If there's anything you like, I'll make sure I give you the best deal today, since it would be helping me out a ton, and then you'd be getting a great product in return. So I always say some variant of that right after I express my goal, and that's to create urgency and to let them know kind of the deeper meaning behind why I do Cutco. It's a really big part of the virtual. It's a really big part of any demo, in my opinion, and I recommend everyone do that. And if you're not doing it, revisit why you're not doing it, and then maybe come up with a better goal. So that's a huge part of my presentation. After I build rapport, share goals, the next page in my Blue Book has literally a lined sheet of paper, your basic lined sheet of paper, and it has about 100 people's names on it as 2 columns. And it's literally just a list of people that have given me 10 or more referrals. And the goal of this is just to create social evidence that everyone gives referrals and that it's very common. So normally out of the 100 names, I have a backside as well with like probably 50 more names. I just want them to identify someone on that list that gave me 10 or more referrals. And typically when you're working within the same network, they can identify more than one. This is good because it gets them thinking like, oh, what did Sally buy? Or, oh, like, how do you know Frank or whatever? The goal is to like create a culture where it's like normal to meet with you, normal to give referrals, and normal to buy over FaceTime because everyone else is doing it. You don't want to shove that down their throat. You want to like very casually like just let them know you've met with these people just to kind of like pique their interest and see where they go from there. So after I do that, that's kind of my referral plug. I'll mention like, hey, by the way, the most important part of my job isn't actually selling you everything. I mean, that's cool. Like I wouldn't complain. Haha. However, the main goal of what I'm doing here today is to make sure you like me and you're comfortable enough that at the end you can recommend a couple people, because that's the lifeblood of what I do. I can't call or get in contact with anyone that I haven't been referred to. So it is literally the most important part of my job. And that's about what I say in the intro. It's a nice referral plug. It's almost like the full referral pitch, if you will. And most people will just like nod their head like, okay, cool, like they understand. You really don't need to spend too much time on that. That should be like a quick like 20, 30-second thing. And typically that makes it 10 times easier in the end when you're circling back to referrals. You don't have to like repitch it. So I think it makes a lot of sense to do it right there. And you just build rapport too and whatnot, so they're in like a good mood. After I have that page, or after I show that page, the next page in my blue book when I flip is the Cutco Kitchen, just the standard 3-panel one that everyone gets from the company, from their literature. So the intro to the Cutco Kitchen, the goal is short, sweet, simple. Do not overcomplicate things. The simpler the better. So I intro the 3 basic sets, which is the Homemaker, the Signature, and the Ultimates. I do not give full descriptions on each. Like literally introing all 3 should take about 60 seconds. For the basic, I'll just tell them it's 8 table knives, 8 prep knives. It's our most common and our most popular set since the 40s. I'll show them the family set and say it's our family set. It's our customer recommended set. It comes with the basic 8 pieces plus our 4 best sellers. So that's why it's our customer recommended. A lot of people like this one. And then also has service for 10 if you entertain a lot or you do a lot of gatherings or barbecuing or whatnot. It's nice to have 10. And then I'll show the complete set, and I'll basically re-say the same thing. This has service for 12, which is nice if you barbecue, entertain, yada, yada, yada. And then I'll say it just comes with a couple of our best specialty knives for like, filleting chicken and whatnot and stuff like that. And that's really all I'll say. Like I said, it's about 60 seconds. I don't go into details about what comes in it or anything like that. It's just short, simple, sweet. And that's pretty much it. Typically they won't have any questions or anything there. But when presenting 3 sets, you want to present with like bulletproof confidence. Like you expect them to buy a set, because why wouldn't they? After I do the sets, the next page in the trifold to the Cutco Kitchen is the cookware. So I will fully explain the cookware and how it works. This is the longest part of my intro to the Cutco Kitchen. It's about 3 to 5 minutes, depending on if they have any questions or anything like that. I normally have a 1-quart saucepan that I show, and when showing the 1-quart saucepan, I will like act out how things work. So if this is the saucepan, like I'll say like, yeah, it distributes heat evenly around the bottom of the pan. So it's all the way up from the sides, and then the top down and whatnot. And I'll like use the pan and like just show them how the heat's distributed and how it works and whatnot. I think that's pretty powerful. And like I said, I fully describe the cookware, and I give them a situation where like, hey, let's say you're cooking chicken. This is how it would go. This is how it's different from what you're using now. And yeah, that's the biggest thing I do as far as the intro. If you're not familiar with the cookware or how it works, I recommend you buy the sample from Vector Connect and start cooking with it. It's one of those things that if you learn how to cook with it, if you use it, you'll understand it a lot better. It'll be a lot easier to explain, and you'll understand why it's so worth it. It's one of the best things we sell. And then I do the flatware intro. I do the basic points without mentioning the warranty. I have not mentioned the warranty at all yet at this point. Sometimes customers will kind of like figure it out, and I'm like, yeah, I'm getting to that. Like, I won't tell them. I won't, like, I'll wait. The flatware intro, the most common thing I've typically found when presenting flatware is like, oh, I have that. Like, before I even get to go into the like pitch, if you will. So I literally say in the beginning of my intro, like, hey, this is our flatware. I'm sure you have flatware. It'd probably be pretty challenging at this point in your life to not have it, but this is Cutco's. And then I just give them like the basic points. So I find that little intro where you're like, I'm sure you have flatware, like kind of eliminates the, oh, I already have that. Like, yes, I understand. This is how ours is different though. And so that normally like little resistance there. So after I flip from the flatware page of the Cutco Kitchen Trifold, then I just have the basic building value structure that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. So I'll show a picture of the factory. I say made in America since the 40s. Really quick. That's all they need to know. You don't need to explain how many people work there, and you don't need to go into all that. Just made in America since the 40s. It's something we're really proud of. That's it. Then I say, hey, I'm going to show you a cool magic trick, and this is just to show you the quality of the steel we use. And then I cut the penny, and I explain how that was on Modern Marvels on the History Channel, and there's been a couple TV specials on us. Builds a little bit of value while also showing them the quality, like I said, of the steel. And you want to get really excited when you cut the penny. I'll typically mention I've been here for a little over 3 years now, and I've cut like probably $5 worth of pennies. And like I said, just like build some value in that, get excited, attach some emotion to it. That's one of the bigger parts. After I cut the penny, I then flip to the features and benefits page of Cutco. I will have a steak knife, as in the ones that come in the Siggy or the Ultimate, and I'll just go over the basic, like I said, features and benefits of Cutco. So the first will be the handle. I'll intro them like, so the handle is probably something you've never seen before. Unlike most nice knives that you can't dishwash, like Henkel's, Wusthof, or any of the really expensive stuff, which is super nice, by the way. But if that ever goes in the dishwasher, you do have to rebuy it because it'll get ruined so quick. Cutco's actually fully dishwashable. Our handles are made from something called thermo resin, same thing as a bowling ball. And I'll just kind of like mention, like, briefly throw in some other higher end brands, build them up, right? Like tell them they're super nice, they're super worth it. But if something ever happens, you're kind of screwed. You got to go buy new ones. So that's all I'm trying to connect right there, is that ours is high quality, low maintenance. I'll mention with the steak knife, by the way, this is why I choose to use the steak knife. I'll say, so with the steak knife, for example, if you guys are ever entertaining, or you got like 5 to 8 people over for dinner, or however many people you're having, it doesn't matter. Instead of hand washing everything and being worried if something goes in the dishwasher because it'll get ruined, you can just dishwash all these. It's totally fine. You have nothing to worry about. Again, the picture I'm trying to paint is like very high quality, very low maintenance on their end. After I go over the handle, you can't really cut anything, so don't try to. Just go over the warranty. So right from the handle, I go right to the warranty. I very seldomly will mention the double D edge, or like that we hand hone. Like very seldomly, if I feel like the person's really into it, I'll maybe do it, but I don't really feel like it's needed. And then I go over the warranty. I want to relate it to things that they would understand. In other words, like let's say you're meeting with the husband and the wife. I'm going to compare it to things like Snap-on tools, Craftsman tools, LL Bean, Patagonia. I want to hit companies that I think the wife would be familiar with, and I want to hit companies that I think the husband would be familiar with. So those are like the 4 I list like pretty much every single time. And then I put the warranty in context of the Cutco kitchen. So when I'm going over the warranty, I'll say, yeah, so Cutco's warranty is very similar to Snap-on, Craftsman, LL Bean, Patagonia. Go over the sharpening, replacing, yada, yada, yada. And then, like I said, I put the warranty in the context of the Cutco kitchen. So I'll relate it back to, yeah, that warranty also applies to our cookware. So I don't know how you'd ever break the cookware, but if you were to, we would replace it for free. And then I also relate that back to the flatware. And I'll say, and one of the main reasons why people love our flatware is because it has that same warranty. So most people I meet with, like I said, have flatware. But what's nice with Cutco, and then just re-go over the points, is it's always going to match. You can buy individual. It's 1810. And then with that warranty, you never need flatware again in your life. So again, just, put the warranty in the context of the Cutco kitchen. The goal is for them to get the idea that, hey, it makes sense for you to get your kitchen from Cutco because you're never having to respend, maintain, or do anything again. It's a one and done type deal. So that's the goal of going over the warranty. You want to build it up, get excited about it, and really believe in it. Put a lot of, belief in your voice. After I go over the warranty and how it relates to the kitchen, I have the basic pieces from the homemaker, and that piece of literature where it shows the homemaker set, the basic pieces. I only show them 3 knives. And those 3 knives are the spatula spreader, the chef knife, and the butcher knife. The rest of the knives, I just basically will phrase it as in this is a paring knife. I'm sure you're familiar with that. It's very basic. Most houses basically need one. So a lot of the knives that come in the basic set, or the homemaker set rather, most families have and use on a pretty regular basis, and they're familiar with them. You don't need to hit them with 10 different fruits and vegetables and foods that they can use it on. They understand. So I focus on the 3 that I feel are the most important when trying to sell the homemaker. So the spreader, I want to focus on. It's really good for avocados. Everyone loves avocados now. So when you say that, sometimes people will get all excited and why? Why is it good for avocados? It's so weird. It's just avocado. People get so excited. So I, some tell them how it's good for avocados, cut, scoop, spread, do everything with one. And then after I do the avocado, I'll go into more things I think they actually cook, like cakes or lasagnas or whatever, bagels, stuff like that. Then with the butcher and the chef knife, I'll show them the chef knife and I'll say word for word, this is our chef knife. You probably have something like this at home. They'll say yes. I will say, I'd be willing to bet that's your dullest knife in your house. 90% of the time, they're going to say yes. That's at least my findings. And I say, yeah. Now, I know that because most people use their chef knife for really tough things like squash, melons, pineapple, and even sometimes meats. Any chef knife, not just Cutco, but Wusthof, Henkel, Shun, they're not meant for any tough things like that. They're meant for dicing, chopping, and mincing. That's why they have such a fine edge. So we give you the butcher knife as a really nice complement to the chef knife. So that way you don't dull it out really quick. So we'll give you the butcher knife to use for your squashes, your melons, stuff like that. And then by using the butcher knife, your chef knife will stay sharper so much longer. So the 2 complement one another really well. That's all I want. I just want to show them the connection between the 2 so I don't get the objection of I don't think I'd use that. That's it. I just want to handle that right then and there because most people will eat something that I just mentioned and chances are they're using their chef knife for it. So I always do that. I found a lot of success in that. I recommend it. After I go over the basic pieces that come in the homemaker, which I said is the 3, I don't really do more than that unless they request, oh, can I see that? I'm yeah, sure. I have all the knives with me, by the way, in my briefcase thing on the side. So if they ever want to see anything, I can just pull it out. After I go over that, I'll mention the price comparison. So I have the little sheet that most of you probably use with the Wusthof Icon Blackwood, I believe it is, and then the Shun set. And I the Wusthof set is 20 pieces, 2,000. The Shun one is 19 pieces, 3,400, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure. And then I'll explain. Hey, so for example, if you were shopping at Williams and Sonoma for any nice knives that are going to last you a reasonable amount of time, you'd probably be looking at Wusthof or Shun. Well, Wusthof, which a lot of people have in their house, 20-piece set sells for $2,000, about $100 a knife, which is honestly extremely standard for nice knives. That's actually rather inexpensive. And then a Shun set, which is a little bit more expensive, for 19 pieces is $3,400. The reason they're a little bit more expensive is because they have a really nice warranty, very similar to Cutco's. The only downside is that their factory is in Japan, so when you do want to use that, it is rather inconvenient. And they'll agree, yeah. And then this is where I kind of set the expectancy of them to buy and pricing. And I'll say, so one thing you should know about me and Cutco is actually factory direct. So I do not buy and resell the stuff to you at any price that I choose. Everything is ordered for the customer right from the factory. So all I'm doing is using my rep discount to get you a better deal. That's it. So everything will come to you right from Cutco. And I say it that way so they feel They're already going to buy it. They know that I don't influence the price. So if they want a better price, I'm like, can't do it. And I just feel like that's a really nice line to throw in there, so they know, they have the expectancy, like, oh, it's not going to be 2,000. Oh, it's not going to be 30. Like that's kind of where I want to go with that. And normally they'll like nod their head, like, oh, okay, cool. Sometimes they'll ask, like, oh, how does it work, or whatever. And I'll just tell, oh, I'm a 1099, and what normally doesn't go into that. And then I'll also mention, like, since it's factory direct, there's no markup that you would typically pay in stores, and they're normally kind of excited about that. The next page is right back to the kitchen, Cocoa Kitchen trifold, just like in the beginning. I then show the 3 best sellers again. I've already shown them the pieces that come in the basic set, so I do not re-show that. I just say this is the basic set, the one I was just showing you. Now, this is our family set that comes with the 4 best sellers. One of those best sellers is the shears. I'm sure you can see why people love these. Like, yeah, most people are normally pretty excited about the shears. And then I'll show the Petite Santoku, the cheese, and the Hearty Slicer. And I'll just explain why they're the 3 best sellers. And I mean, those are 4 of the easiest knives to sell, so you guys should be very familiar with the selling points on those. After I do the 4 best sellers in the family, I will show 2 additional pieces from the complete or the ultimate. So I'll say the difference between the family and the complete set is that you get 2 extra table or steak knives, so you have a full set of 12. And then you also get this really nice fillet knife for your raw meats and things like that. And you also get my personal favorite knife the company makes, the veggie knife. And that is my favorite knife, so I get really excited showing it because I love it. I think it's awesome. So I always show that just because it excites me. Sometimes cleaver. If you could sell them on the cleaver, you could sell them on the complete set. So if I feel like they have potential to buy the complete set, I will show the cleaver. Or if I feel like they would use the cleaver based on like things I know they're cooking that I've learned through rapport, I will show the cleaver. So I then ask them to pick one without price. So I'll say, hey, Mrs. Jones, price aside, based on the 3 sets that we're talking about, which one do you feel like you would get the most value out of, and which one would you generally be the most excited about using? They'll pick one. Most do. I would say like 70% do. Some will say like, I don't know if I'd use a set, and you could like, all right, that's totally cool. Do you want me to show you individual pieces, or would you rather be open to at least getting some pricings on the set if it's of any consideration? So that's what I'll do if they say that. But most will pick a set. So get them to pick a set. If they ask for price and whatnot, you say, hey, I'll totally give you price. This is actually good. So if they ask for price when I'm trying to get them to pick a set, I'll say, hey, like, that's totally fine. I'll definitely give you price if you want. However, the way I like to do it is just get an idea of everything that you like. I'll show you the retail price versus your price. And then we can go from there. If it's like too much, we can take some stuff off, or if it's going to fit in the budget, perfect. But I've just found that that's a lot easier way to do things. Cool. Looks like cool. So most people will not protest that. Like I have very few that'll be like, no, I want pricing now. So most of the time you can get away from that. So yeah, they pick one, and then I go basically repeat the same process for cookware and flatware. The goal, by the way, of me spending all that time in the beginning on the cookware is I want them to pick a cookware set. I want them to pick a cookware set for multiple reasons. The biggest being it's expensive, but it's definitely worth it, but it is pricey. And then the flatware as well. I want them to like basically pick 2/3 of the Cocoa Kitchen or all 3 things. Now, I really want them to pick a cookware set really bad, because at the end, if I'm dropping down, the first thing to go is always the cookware. It's great, but it's obviously, as far as CPO goes, it is not as profitable compared to like line 1 versus CPO. So what I'll do is like if at the end, if anything is iffy, if they're iffy on price or anything like that, you can like take out the cookware and then just charge full retail for the set. So that's my goal. So get their thing together, price everything out. You want to show them the retail price and then versus your price. The retail price that I use, by the way, is what these sets would be if they were pieced out. So, for example, the Homemaker set sells for $12.73. If you piece it out, it is slightly under $1,500. I believe it's $1,488. So the number I'm working with is the pieced out price. So when I do retail, let's say they're just looking at the Homemaker, I'll say, so if you were to piece this out, guys, or if you were to buy it like separate at a time, you'd spend about $1,500 to $1,600 given price increases and stuff like that. However, because you're doing it as a set, Cutco has it on sale for $12.73, and then I'll just show them the 5-pay and whatnot. But that's the retail price, is always the pieced out version. And when you're doing it with the Cutco kitchen, if you piece out the set and then the flatware and the cookware, I mean, they save literally thousands just by doing it as a set without you giving anything for free. So it makes a ton of sense to show it that way. I recommend everyone show it that way. You want to present pricing with bulletproof confidence. Show it over the 5-pay and then drop down as need be. Just to get you some confidence with like the pricing and whatnot. If you guys walk into a Williams and Sonoma or any high-end kitchen store, I mean, it's literally the same as Cutco, if not more, and there's no warranty. So I have a lot of confidence in presenting this stuff just because after doing it for a little bit and doing, a primarily demo-based business, you see a lot of people that have a lot of the higher-end brands that they paid good money for that just don't last nearly as long as us. So I have a lot of confidence in that, and I think everyone should have it. Also, one other thing, as you're dropping down, your discounts have to be consistent with the way you present price to your customer. For example, if someone's doing flatware and a homemaker set, right, I'm probably going to give them like a gadget pack for free and then like the shears or something like that. And then if they drop down to just the homemaker, well, then I'm not giving all that for free still. I'm giving like the shears for free or like the ice cream scoop or something that's consistent with the way they're dropping down. And that's a really important part because you really don't want to give the feeling to your customer that they can, get all the same perks, like all the same freebies, that they would have if they did the package deal, but they're still going to get it anyway just because they do one part of the Cutco kitchen. So be very consistent with the way you're dropping down. Lastly, because I don't think I have too much time left here, as far as recommendations after you present price, whether or not you closed, assuming you did everything right, you should be able to close on something. Might not be like a kitchen, might not be a package deal, might not be a set, even individual, whatever. But after you do your close, whether it works out or it doesn't, you just circle back to Rex. It's super simple, having prefaced it really heavily in the beginning. You can basically just circle back by saying, hey, so you remember those referrals, or remember referrals I was talking to you about in the beginning? And they'll say like, yeah. I'd be like, cool. So basically, like I was saying, it's the most important part of my job. Are you cool with helping me out with that? And that's literally what I say. That is it, because it was prefaced so heavily in the beginning, and they understand the way it works. And whatnot. So that's literally it. You don't need this whole long explanation. And most people at that point will say, yeah. Again, like there's always that small ratio that won't, but most will say, yeah. If they do give me an objection, I'll just explain like, hey, I totally understand where you're coming from. Just so you know, and you have some peace of mind here, the way it works. And then I explain how they get a heads up text, and I'm not going to call anyone that says no. And basically, it's only with people that have agreed to speak with me. So that's the way I do it. The last key tip I'll give for Rex is you never want to let them follow up with you about it. It's a lot easier over FaceTime when someone says, yeah, like I just need to think about it. I just need to think about who I'd give you. Let's talk tomorrow and I'll give you my list. You're like, all right, cool, like no problem. I've gone down that path, and it's just really hard to consistently follow up with someone like that, especially if you're busy and you have other things going on. It's just a pain. So you just want to avoid that. I will say, if they give me a line like that, I'll say, hey, that's totally cool. In my experience in the 4 years I've been doing this, like giving me referrals is not something that's a high priority for you. And I understand that. That is totally fine. If I was in your shoes, I'd feel the same way. So if you're open to it, could I just get a couple people while we're on FaceTime? It's easier for both of us, and then you can just send that text out, and out of sight, out of mind, we'll be done with it. Most people at that point, when you get real with them, will say yes. If they're still like, I don't know, don't push it any farther. Just leave it as it is. But you really want to avoid that whole follow-up thing, just because, like, if you're busy with the business and you're working a lot, it just becomes a lot to have to follow up with people like that. So those are my tips for the virtual. Just to kind of review what I taught and why it matters. just going to review like the 3 key things that I feel will do the most, make the most impact on you guys. So first thing is confidence, expectancy, and the way you approach your virtuals. Same confidence as a regular demo, same expectancy, same everything. Again, I rationalize this by people buying a lot of stuff off Amazon all the time. You've all probably been there. You've all probably done it. So same confidence, same expectancy, same everything you would do in a regular appointment. That it's huge. Another, like the second key thing I would say is in the beginning when you're sharing goals and you are prefacing the referrals, make sure that whatever goal you're sharing, you are very bought into. Like they need to feel that you are bought into your goal, right? It's such a huge part of demo. It's a huge part of them, liking you and wanting to help you. So make sure that you have a very clear goal in mind and you have a very clear way of telling your customer how your goal connects to why you're working with Cutco. It's massive. You have to do it. And then the recs kind of tie in with that same point. So I would recommend everyone have some sort of variation of that where they're showing social evidence of recs in the beginning and are prefacing heavily that they're going to ask for recommendations and how important it is. Those would be like, those 2 things are 1 point basically. And then the third thing, I believe that introing the Cutco kitchen, when I intro it, like in the beginning, just sets the expectancy of larger orders from the get-go. If you guys aren't doing that already, I recommend it. That would be my third key point for you to work on is look at that trifold. Again, basic stuff for the sets. If you don't know the cookware, learn it, buy the pan, and then the flatware. If you don't know the points, ask your manager, local CSP, someone that would know. But you want to have that down so that you're not missing people that are in the market for flatware. When I started, I didn't know how to sell cookware flatware. 2-3 years later, I have, my customer base and people that bought Just Knives from me are reaching back out like, hey, I didn't know you guys even made cookware flatware. I was in the market. Why didn't you tell me? I've actually had that happen a couple times. So you never know who you're missing by not mentioning everything. Those are my 3 quick points, guys, on what I think you should work on leaving this talk. That's everything I have to teach as far as virtual demos. Hopefully you guys crush it coming back from, whatever it is you're doing this summer, and hopefully this helps.